What's up guys, it's Johnny O with another How To Tuesday for you. We're going to look at PowerShell again today. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So last How To Tuesday where we did PowerShell, we looked at GetAppX package and GetAppX provision package on how you could use those to remove Windows applications, even the ones that have the uninstall button grayed out. So what I want to look at today is how instead of having to write those lines over and over and over and over again, we can use a for loop to actually just create a loop to go through and say, okay, everything in this list of names, if anything matches it, find it and remove it for me. So the first thing we need to do before we can loop through anything is have a set of data to loop through. So what I want to do here is I'm going to create a variable. In PowerShell, when you create a variable, you have to start it with a $sign. We're going to call it bloat. By the way, guys, if this line right here doesn't mean anything to you, if you don't know what this does, you don't understand it, check out the video in the card I'm going to put up in the top left-hand or top right-hand corner of your video here, and that'll explain this whole GetAppX package and how to remove programs through PowerShell. Alright, so we're going to set our variable name to $bloat and set it equals to at open close parentheses, and everything within this will be a part of the array. So we're going to go and use single quotes because we're going to pass in string variables. So string data type is just anything that's a string of characters, like your name or anything like that. So in this case, it's going to be the name or part of a name that we want to match for these applications. So let's take a look. What do I want? Let's do recorder, which should match with Windows Sound Recorder. Now I haven't done this since the Creators Update, so I don't know if you can still uninstall the grayed out uninstall items. So Voice Recorder is one of those, so that'll let us know real quick if that's gonna work or not. And the second one that we'll do, let's pick one that we know will work. Okay, so it looks like Bing Weather. I'll let you uninstall. So we'll do Recorder and Weather as two items in our loop. If you're only doing two items, it may not be worth doing a loop, but if you have like 5, 6, 7, 8, a dozen, then it starts to make more sense. So what we'll do next is we'll go ahead and create our loop. We'll do for open close parentheses, open close curly brace. So within our curly brace is going to be the code that will run within the loop. You'll see we get this little plus minus that we can do. And within the curly braces, within the parentheses will be the conditions for the loop. So first thing we need to do is define a variable that will be our counter to keep track of how many times we're going through the loop. Because if we don't keep track of how many times we're going through it, we'll go into an endless loop that we can never get out of, and that's not a good thing. So we're going to use $I. It's most commonly used for a loop because iteration, it kind of makes sense. So we're going to set that equals to 0. Then we're going to do a semicolon, space, $I again. So we're going to look at this variable I. And we're going to do this as long as it is less than $bloat.length. So what this is telling PowerShell is that we want to go through this loop and run this code basically as many times as we find a new item in our loop or in our array, in our bloat array. So what happens is you start at 0 in an array. First item is always a 0. Then you increment up by 1 from there. 0, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. So what will happen is here we'll go through and on the first run we'll run item 0, which will be recorder. On the second run we'll run item 1, which will be weather. On the third run we want I to be equal to 2 because this is run through 3 times, 0, 1, 2. And well, it's run through 2 times. This will be the third run. And what will happen is it will evaluate that and say, okay, it is now equal to the total number of items in our array. We're going to go ahead and stop running it. So the way we make sure that happens is by doing another semicolon and saying $I plus plus. So the plus plus is just like saying +1, but it's kind of sort of shorthand for +1. It's just saying plus plus just says I want to add 1 to this item. Alright, so that'll cover it for actually defining our loop and the conditions for it. So now we want to say, okay, what code do we want to run for this loop? So in this loop we want to run this piece of code here. But just saying 3D Builder here doesn't help us. All we're going to do is run it 2 times for 3D Builder. So we're going to get rid of 3D Builder. I'm going to add 2 more single quotes, because here, this where object, we're saying, okay, look through all the Apex packages that I found and find all the ones where the name looks like or is similar to whatever is in between these wildcards here. So we're going to do open single quote wildcard, which is our asterisk, close single quote, and then do the same thing here, and in between we're going to do a set of pluses and do our $bloat, our variable. But then we need to be able to tell it, okay, which item in the array do we want to look at, and we're going to do a bracket $I. So what happens here is this comes down through and says, okay, I've got all these packages for these users. I want to find the object whose name looks like anything similar to what's in between these asterisks, which the first run through will be recorder, second run through will be weather, and then it should stop running. Now the other thing we want to look at here is, what if there's an error? What if something doesn't work right? We run it, we look, and we see, oh, well, the items are still there, or maybe some of the items are still there that we asked it to remove. We want to be able to know what went wrong, right? We want to do some error handling. So I'm going to introduce an if statement here. So an if is just a case or a condition where we say, okay, if this thing is true, then do this, or if this thing is false, do this. If this thing is true or false, then run the code. If not, do something else, whatever. It'll make more sense in a second. I'm not really explaining that very well right now. We're going to do an if statement, and so what we're going to do is the condition, the test that we want to run is say, okay, if $? is equal to false. Do I need to do that in single quotes? I think I need to do that in single quotes. Is equal to false. Then I want to go ahead and do a out file. You know what? I need to do $error. So $error is actually a built-in variable in PowerShell. It's a global variable, I guess you would call it. And it's an array of all the errors that have happened during that session of PowerShell. So by running array 0, we're going to look at the first, or error 0, we're going to look at the first item in the error array, and the first item in this array will always be the most recent error. Okay, so we're going to do $error 0, and we're going to pipe that out to an out file. And we're going to set that out file to be C :temp/test.txt. And we're going to say append because we want to just add new items to the end. We don't want to overwrite. And then that should basically do it. So this is going to do, right now this is just going to look up the packages. So we're going to run this to test. So go ahead and hit play. And you can see here that's where our code ran. And you see we get Windows Sound Recorder and Bing Weather are found. And we can look at, we go pull it up. Okay, so this is from where I was testing with stuff earlier. But you can see it actually, okay, that's weird. Why did it write? I should have only written if it actually came up false. Alright, so I had a slight error there, guys. Sorry about that. This should be $false, not single quote false in there to actually evaluate properly. Otherwise, it'll always not run properly. So now when you get this, when you run it, you get Bing Weather, and you get Windows Sound Recorder. And if I go open the test file that it created, you'll see it's empty, which it should be, because we had no errors. So now we want to go ahead and do the pipe remove Apex package, all users. And what we'll go ahead and do is run that. We'll be prompted to save since I'm doing it on this item here. And let's see. You see I have no errors in my text file, which is good. And in theory then, you see weather is now gone, as well as sound recorder. And I honestly don't remember what name it was under before, because it wasn't under sound recorder. It was under something different. But either way, it is gone. So the one that was grayed out uninstall, and the one that was we could uninstall it ourselves, which was weather, both of them have been successfully uninstalled with no errors. What would happen though, if you did have anything, so actually if I go ahead and run this again, in theory I should get errors because I've already removed the items. No, I didn't get an error. So let me do something that I know will get an error. So there we go. So for some reason, at least on my computer anyways, I can't remove the camera app. It's like super hard coded in here. But you'll see I've got the removal failed, and it gives me details on why it failed. So there you go. We've now successfully had some error handling happen. So if there is an error, we can go back through and look, say, well, why wasn't camera removed? And we can look here. We've got an exception code that we can look up from Microsoft, and it'll probably give us no information, but that's okay. At least it's something. Alright, so guys, I think that'll cover it for today. Hopefully this video isn't going to be too long. I'm going to go and get it edited and thrown up before Tuesday is over, because I'm recording this on Tuesday, because I'm behind as usual. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Leave me a like down below. If you liked the video, leave me a comment. Let me know if there's any other things you would like to see me do on How To Tuesday, whether it's PowerShell related or anything else at all. And until next time guys, it's Johnny O, signing off.